Social housing and supported living have been the buzzwords throughout 2025 when it comes to property investing. But what does it really mean, and what does that look like from a practical perspective for property investors and landlords? What are the real opportunities? So in this episode of Your Property Podcast, I talked to Kay Gavin. Kay is someone who has built an amazing business providing supported living to groups of people who are absolutely most in need of that. She demonstrates true altruistic investing, having built a business she's incredibly proud of, providing much needed support to people who want to live semi-independently. And she's coupled this with a fantastic business model as well. So in this episode, we're going to dive deep, talk about how this actually works, how she finds supported living providers who are in much need of accommodation, how she designs those properties specifically for them, how she creates great cash flowing investments for herself and provides amazing accommodation for, as I say, those people who most need it. So if you've ever wondered how a supported living property investment business works, this is the episode for you. Once again, I'm interviewing real people achieving extraordinary things in property. So sit back, relax and enjoy.
Hey, this is Ant from YPN, and this is my favourite part of the job, where I get to speak to a real life property investor about real life property deals and their chosen strategy, why it works, the challenges, and where they are in their property journey, so we can share this with other YPN members and our wider community, so we can all learn from successes and also some of the mistakes or hurdles that happen along the way. So I'm really pleased today to be joined by Kay. Kay, thanks for joining me.
No worries, thank you for having me.
Kay is, Kay, you've got a particular chosen strategy that you follow, which is a fairly hot topic in the kind of world of property investing, but one which probably there's a lot of misunderstanding around. So we're here to dig deep today and find out a little bit about you and what you do, how you do it, and share it with the community. So you're first of all, tell us whereabouts you're based geographically and a little bit about your kind of chosen property strategy. What is it that you do?
Yeah, so we're based in Cheshire, so midway up the country. We're kind of in the middle.
Hey, that's way north for me. That's passport territory.
Everybody always says it's north, and I'm like, no, it's central, and they're like, it's not, it's north. Geography's not really my strong point, thankfully. So yeah, we invest. We live in Cheshire as well, so we invest where we live. Everything's within sort of half an hour, 40 minutes of where we live, and our chosen strategy is supported living, but it's supported living for complex care adults generally. So people with severe autism, people with severe additional needs, that means that they need extra help to be as independent as they can be.
Okay, amazing. And this is sort of particularly close to my heart, I guess, because I have a property which, by happenstance and utterly by chance, years ago, I used to rent to a company that did exactly this. It looked after young adults with those kind of special needs or autism, and in a sort of supported living environment. And they were such a great bunch of young people working in there. If we've got time for one story on it, I think hopefully we have. I was there once, and one of the young guys there was saying, I was thinking about getting a little pet, like a little pet or something, maybe like a little dog, like a chihuahua. I was like, well, you're going to need to talk to, the people who manage it. He said, yeah, like a chihuahua or a German shepherd. I was like, well, maybe like that. And then he said, or maybe a bird, like a budgie or something. I was like, oh right. He said, or a macaw. I was like, right, okay. How have I ended up in sort of pet negotiation? But great guys, and I loved having them in there. And one of the advantages, which we're going to talk about today, is actually they took amazing care of the property. Yeah. Little or no management from me, which is great because I'm not great at that job. So how did you come into this kind of very niche sort of supported living strategy? How did you find out about it, and why was that the thing to do?
Yeah, so the why is we wanted to build something that was has the ability to make a difference to people's lives, first and foremost. We've got friends with children with additional needs, and they're older than our kids, and we were in a position where we were like, well, what will happen, having conversations with friends, what will happen to X when they get to 18? Because 18, even if you have complex needs, you're deemed as an adult, and actually everything changes when you turn 18. So you're sort of thrust into this world where your parents aren't really meant to be your carer anymore. And I said, well, that's crazy, because they're no different from 17, 364 days and 18. So we had conversations with friends, and we were like, well, how cool would it be if we could have a house with, we've got 3 friends with 3 kids that have all got additional needs. How cool would it be if them 3 lived together and they could all live independently, but they're in a safe, functional home that's being looked after, and their needs are being met, but it doesn't have to be with you, so they can be more independent. And it sort of grew from there. COVID happened. We'd got a build on that we were going to turn into a HMO. I then found supported living and said to my partner, how about if we try sort of a best of both worlds? So we'll do a HMO but for supported living, and it's sort of grown from there. We got in contact with care providers, and we've got a small team of care providers that we provide homes for now, that we effectively can't keep up with. So it's a nice problem to have. But yeah, we, like you were saying before about the guys in the houses, we've got multiple houses, and we get good news stories back fairly regularly from the houses, and that's really what drives us to carry on doing it, the difference it makes in their lives, and knowing that we're making a difference ourselves. So,
and there is that very intrinsic reward to particularly a property strategy like this, but even other strategies when we're turning something old and unloved into something beautiful and repurposed. Yeah. And hey, it's got to work from a financial perspective, and we'll talk about that later on. But I was really interested to sort of find out, when you're having the conversations with the care providers, how do you find out about them? How do you approach them, and how do you find out what it is they need? Because I'm imagining that maybe these aren't just set up like a standard HMO. There might be some adaptations. So there's a lot to talk about there. So let's talk about, how do you get in contact with them and find out, what is it that you need?
Yeah, so ours has been, so we started off with one, effectively, and it was almost like word of mouth in our area. The best way that we've found that one was the CQC website, which has all the care providers in the country, and looking in our areas and basically being like a dog with a bone, and contacting them regularly to see if they have needs, if they need anything, if they need houses. A lot of care providers provide dom care, which is where they go into somebody else's houses and look after them. But the idea is that those people may need to move out from family, they may be older, and they are in a house that doesn't suit them anymore and suit their needs anymore. So a lot of care providers are moving into looking for homes for people for a fairly substantial period of time as well. But it really came from us being able to produce something that worked and felt homely and was safe and functional, and we are, as a company, fairly flexible in what we are able to provide. Some people don't like certain adaptations in their houses, for argument's sake, a hoist system, because your exit plan is then cut off completely for it either being sold to an old person that needs a hoist or somebody else that needs a hoist. But generally we don't tend to say no, because the idea is that we want to be able to help that person at that time. So
okay, so in terms of you have a conversation, they have a requirement for properties. And what types of properties are they looking for? Is it a kind of like 3-4 bed house, detached, bungalow? What, are they quite specific about what they need?
They are. They're sometimes not realistic in their requirements, and they're having conversations with the local authority, which adds another layer of complication to it, because the local authority are constantly watching the budget, trying to put my words politely about local authorities. So it's sort of it's a real negotiation. It's taught me an awful lot in negotiations, in that if this person needs that, I will happily provide that. However, like you were on about before, it is a business, so it does have to work that way. As well, we don't have anything that we can't afford to refinance out effectively. And if that person is if it is an absolute requirement, there are ways that the local authority can assist in that as well. And that's experience and learning and knowing what conversations you need to have in them. Because when we first started, we were like, well yeah, we'll pay for that, we'll pay for that. And then we were like, hang on a minute, we're paying for everything. And actually, like that, and I think it's having conversations with people that are more experienced, and not just in the supported living sector, but in the care sector and in the local authority, and things can then open up to you, and you're aware more of what's available to you that can help the person moving in and you as for your budget.
So I guess there's the must-haves and then would-likes, and your job is to kind of determine which is which out of those things.
Yeah, and work out, because your rental's worked out on effectively how much money you've put in. So the rental can vary depending on the adaptation. So I have had a conversation recently where somebody wants patio doors cutting into one of the bedrooms. It's not a problem, we can do it. However, it will then make that bedroom a living room for that person. But for our exit strategy, then we've got a house with a set of patio doors in a bedroom. So the rental has to be worked out off on that, because we're ultimately shutting our exit plan to, if for any reason the contract was to fall down, we've then got to try and either resell it or re-let it.
Yeah.
And
if it was undo the work, or
which obviously comes at a cost as well. So and that's what makes it so varied. And I mean, I love that it's varied, but it's getting it to a point where it's handed over for the good news stories is the hardest part, because things are very fluid and things change an awful lot. So you could have somebody identified for that house today, and something could happen, and they're then so you've budgeted for, let's take the patio doors for instance. The patio doors are budgeted for, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, oh no, they're not moving in now for X, Y and Z reason. How about we get this person in, but this person's in a wheelchair and therefore they need ramps and extra wide doors. The price difference is, and you can't plan for every eventuality. So it's taught me an awful lot to be like, well, no, we need something in writing to say this person's moving in and that's it. Because if not, we'd be building right up until they moved in, changing things,
rebuilding.
Which I don't want to do. I don't like doing things twice. So,
and it's interesting that you talk about you kind of pricing into the rental side of things, the adaptations that are made. So this sounds like, because it's very specialist, this isn't a case of that care provider or that local authority says, well, we pay X amount for a property, because the needs are so unique. So is this a kind of a negotiation point where you're saying, well, we're going to need to achieve this in order to provide this product for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do the bones of it. We can turn a house around, and we always put, like, fire doors are a given, induction hobs, full insulate fire systems, irrelevant of whether it's a HMO or whether it's like a bungalow or a standard house. They go in irrelevant of anything else. But the more specific adaptations, so ramps, wet rooms, patio doors, things like that, they're very person specific, and that's where so we might have a standard rental that we could say, well, it will be £1,000 for that. However, the adaptations then are the things that need to be negotiated. Well, what kind of ramp do you want? Do you want a concrete ramp or do you want a removable ramp? If you want a removable ramp, then it will cost less. I don't do concrete ramps, but it will cost less than having a removable ramp. So which one is it that you want?
And so I'm dying to know as well, which comes first, the chicken or the egg. So if you're having a conversation with a sort of care provider, like, yeah, we really need a house for this, this spec house, then going out and kind of shopping for that, finding the right property to buy at the right price and turn around the refurb, that's quite a long process. So I can see how that, that person, their needs might be completely different. They might have gone elsewhere. How do you, try and align these two things? Or are you out you've got an idea of the types of properties and then agree a purchase and then adapt and take it to the... Sorry, I'm just trying to get... How on earth do you start that?
So it's very much chicken and egg. So when we find houses that we feel would be applicable, we send them to the people that we work with. They then take them to the people that they need to take them to. We have... I have regular meetings with care providers and registered providers to say what are the requirements in the areas, what are the local authorities' plans, because they have an awful lot of conversations with them, more than I do, about what the actual requirements are and what the plans are for the local authority at that time. Obviously, again, everything changes. It's local authority. Everything seems to change on the daily. But they have an idea. They have a plan of what they need. So therefore, then I can then look for what's required within that remit, basically. And then what happens is we tend to look for that, find it, and send it to the care providers and basically say, will this suit anybody that you have? Do you have anybody that you could potentially you could think that it would fit for, it would work for? Yes, no. If no, then it's gone on to the next. And if yes, then we look to then offer. We don't tend to offer until we've sort of had the conversation to say yes, we can fill it. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I'm really interested to sort of find out about the economics of it as well, particularly with regard to sort of financing and refinancing, because this is not your standard buy-to-let. And I was curious to know, do you need different type of planning permission for the house, and is it a different type of lending that you're looking at, based on a different criteria? I don't know if it's based on commercial valuation rather than a bricks and mortar. So sorry, a lot to unpack there. So it tends to be, again, it varies case to case and it varies lender to lender. We were at a stage with one of our properties where in the whole country there was 2 lenders that were prepared to lend on one of our properties, and that was based on a commercial valuation. A lot of them are based on the bricks and mortar valuation, and that's where it becomes, that's where that negotiation really needs to be. You need to be fairly strong in it, because it can be very easily become undone. If you're, for argument's sake, you're buying a house for 100 grand, you're spending 50 grand on it, and it's worth 160, for argument's sake, it's very easy for that 10 grand to be gone, and then you've got no skin in it whatsoever, because they're only prepared to... Huge amount of money left in the deal in those, and very hey, look, we will know that actually just buying a property and just doing a refurb or whatever, it's very difficult to force the appreciation sufficiently to kind of get money back out. So so you're having conversations with different types of lenders then. We've got a great relationship with our broker. He understands entirely what we're trying to achieve, and it means that he understands that I generally speak to him fairly early on. If we've had an offer accepted, I generally speak to him pretty early on and say, this is what we're thinking of doing.
is there a lender for it? And he'll say yes or no. And again, that has a huge bearing on whether we proceed with it or not. Because if we can't get the refinance, we can't do it. We can't buy a house for 100 grand. We can't leave 100 grand in it. It's just, we'd just be daft. We'd be really daft.
You could do one deal.
Yeah, we'd be really bad business people, I feel like, if we did that. So I think it's all about making sure that all the plates are spinning, at the same time. Basically, it's all very much. I think when we've done standard buy-to-lets and standard buy-to-lets, you buy it, you refurb it, you refinance it, you get your tenants in, happy days. There's a lot more plate spinning. You have to make sure that you're speaking to them at the same time as them to make sure that at the end it all comes together with as little delay as possible. Because that's the other thing we've experienced, is that we've got the house ready, and the house then, for whatever reason, there's people that haven't moved, they can't move out of their service that they're in, or they're in child services moving to adult services, and there's been delays and complications in that. And so that's when the business side has to come out, and we have to say, hang on a minute, no, we told you it would be done here, we're very good communicators, we told you it would be ready here, the lease needs to start here, and you need to be paying for the void. That's not for us to do. We've pushed it as far as we can humanly push it.
We've delivered on our part of the agreement, as it were.
Yeah.
So.
And that's, I'll be honest, that's the part I struggle with the most, because I'm just like, okay, yeah, it can just be another week. Yeah, it can just, and then a month's gone down the line, and I'm like, hang on a minute, I've paid higher rates on my mortgage to allow you to be able to use this property, and it's costing our business now, and ultimately stopping us purchasing something else. So
what does financing and refinancing look like? Is that kind of a cash purchase, or a cash bridging purchase, or private investor finance, and then a refinance onto a specialist lender based on commercial valuation on the rent, or what does it?
No, so it depends on what type of house. Generally, we're tending to stay away from HMOs because they're harder to fill because of the complexity of people. We've got a couple of HMOs that are supported living, but it takes an awful lot more work for everybody to be able to get like 4 people in a house. We've got a 6-bed house that only 4 people can live in, and that took like nearly 12 months to get over the line. Which we were paying £1,700 a month mortgage on that, which was quite a lot of money to try and find every month. So a HMO would be as a commercial valuation. That was done as a commercial, but that was because it was sort of, as what I understand as standard HMOs, it had en suites and things. So we were able to utilise commercial valuations. On the standard houses, it's a standard bricks and mortar valuation. They like to see visibility of the lease, however they don't take the lease amount into any consideration at all. So it's ironic really that they want to see the lease. It doesn't really make any sense to me that.
So how are you getting that kind of uplift then? What determines the uplift over and above just kind of the cosmetic kind of improvement?
So buying below market value. We're still finding deals that mean that we can buy below market value, and at the moment it's literally been the renovation, the quality of the renovation has been the thing that's pushed the price up as much as it has. So when we do them, it's a full replumb, full rewire. It has very visible things that show that money's been put into it: new windows, new doors, interlinked fire system, emergency lights, fire doors. So sorry, dog just getting in on it. And then it's got a brand new kitchen, it's got a brand new bathroom, it's got LVT flooring throughout, so and nice underlay if there's any carpets. The paint, it's painted in really homely colours. So the actual standard of the refurb is really the thing that we balance it between buying it at the right price and knowing what the revalue will be. We tend to stick with a similar type of property, so we know what the max we can pay for to be able to, what the max refinance we're likely to get, which again comes from experience.
And so perhaps you could talk us through a project so we could understand what that kind of looks like, and the type of property and what you do to it, and then the kind of financial overview of it as well. So I know you were kind enough to send in a few examples, so perhaps if just on this one, if there's one you think would be particularly pertinent.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think which ones I sent in.
It doesn't have to be one of those. You can choose whatever one you want.
What I'll do then, if it's okay, I'll do the one that we've just done. Yeah, the one that we've just done, because it's freshest in my mind. Yeah. So it's a 2-bed bungalow. We bought it for 110,500. The 500 was very important because they made me put £500 in, so I won it.
Yeah, why did they do that? Yeah.
So we bought it for 110,500. It had auction fees on it and things like that of about 7,000. The refurb on that has been approximately 40,000. Make sure I get my numbers right here because I've not got them in front of me. Plus stamp duty and everything as well. The other thing we do as a refurb as standard really is we put presscrete outside. So from the curb appeal point of view, when the valuer turns up, it looks, we've not power washed the front and they're all crappy old slate or stone or whatever. It's all nice outside. So sorry, 110,500 purchase price, 7,000 approx fees, 40,000 refurb, and we've just had that refinanced for 200,000.
Okay, great. So how much money are you leaving in that deal?
So I think it's about £9,000 if off the top of my head. Yeah, around 9,000, which is pretty good for how we had additional things on there because the garden ended up being worse than what we anticipated and things. So we planned for a little bit of presscrete, but the garden actually needed landscaping and things. So yeah, around 9,000 left in.
Okay, great. And then what would, if that was a standard AST let, what would that sort of generate in rent, and what does it generate in terms of you working with a supported living provider there?
Yeah, so standard rental around theirs, because it's a bungalow, they do dictate a little bit more. But standard rental's around £1,100 a month.
Which it wouldn't really work, would it, as a single let particularly well? So
no, it's only a 2-bed, so it would only be a little family or a little old couple, really. So yeah, which I don't mind taking. We could rent it to a little old person, but the turnover and stuff. And for the supported living, we get approximately £1,500 a month for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a significant uplift there in terms of the rent, and perhaps more akin to kind of HMO profit returns rather than a single let return, but without the HMO management side of things.
Yeah. Like you said before, we sign 5-year contracts, which means that once we've done the hard work of getting the house across the line, we hand it off. We are still hands-on in that if the care provider or the registered provider needs anything looking at, because we're closer to them generally, we don't mind going around and looking at them, but ultimately the person that's moved in there needs to be left to live as independently as possible, so we don't interact with them once they're moved in. So actually it's quite a hard road to get there, but once it's there, it's handed off, and that's the end of it for us type thing. So on to the next. The mortgage is slightly more because it's a specialist lending, so the interest rate's slightly higher. But again, that's why it's important to speak to the broker as soon as we can to make sure we can get it financed.
And so, in terms of a business, you'd be looking for a kind of certain return on capital left in the deal. Is there a sort of benchmark on that? Do you have a target saying, well, we're not going to do this if it doesn't return X to us, or it's not economically viable, or we could deploy that money elsewhere if that were the case?
So we tend to work to a 20% return. So if it's less than 20%, we don't tend to look at it. How houses seem to be at the moment, we are being more flexible on that if we can, because we tend to look at bungalows and smaller houses. We're competing with older people that might be downsizing, first-time buyers. Lots of younger people are living in bungalows now rather than buying houses. So it seems to be that we're competing with a lot more people, especially for the bungalows. So we are having to be more flexible. But generally, if it doesn't produce a 20% return, then we don't look at it.
Okay, brilliant. And I think I always say the next bit on all of these kind of interviews that it's really easy to run out of money in property. It's probably the easiest thing. So sometimes just on deal number one. So what's your kind of plan, or how do you overcome that? Are you kind of, like still working elsewhere and sort of generating funds that go back into the business, or reinvesting the profits into the business? What's your plan to not run out of cash and for the business to kind of stop at a certain size?
Yeah, so we generally purchase cash and then refinance. We have used a couple of bridges. We are looking at being able to utilise bridges more. I'm full-time in the property business. My partner's got a small construction company that he's still working in that to generate an income. But everything just gets put back into the business. We just recycle everything pretty much.
Okay.
So
you've still got an external kind of wage coming in and income coming in, so that enables you to reinvest the funds in generated. So okay, fab.
Yeah.
And I assume there'll be a point at which he may want to go full time in this as well. And I'm always interested to find out your longer term plans with the business, but before that, it might be great for us to understand. So, what does it look like at the moment? How many of these properties do you have with supported living providers, and how many people who are very much in need of this kind of accommodation are you providing that it wouldn't be able to live this way if you didn't do this? Because I think that's something to be really proud of.
So we've just had offer number 14 accepted, so we'll be getting number 14 just after Christmas. We've been in business, it'll be 7 years in February, so we average out 2 a year pretty much. We've got a couple of HMOs, so there's nine people in them too. I think I'm just trying to turn 11. I should feel like I should know this off the top of my head. Sorry, it's because I know them by name. I don't know them by number. So that's where I get caught up. I think we've got around 15 supported living tenants. We've got across the houses, and then we've got 3 standard buy-to-lets who are standard ASTs. The plan is to make sure that we've always got something to fall back on. If for any reason the supported living doesn't pan out, but I genuinely can't see it going anywhere. I get phone calls regularly from people to say, have you got any houses? And I'm like, I don't just have empty houses sat waiting for people to ring. So
no. Well, it's certainly, I can't imagine that the kind of requirement for this kind of housing is going to go away, is it?
No.
And it's it's a really valuable service that you're providing, and should be really proud, that 15 people living there that, maybe wouldn't be in the right kind of accommodation for them. So it sounds like you really love what you do and are rightly proud of operating in this sector, particularly when landlords, we don't get a great reputation.
Yeah, but no, absolutely. I always say I'm trying to change people's perceptions of us, like one house at a time. We get people walking into the houses and they're like, oh wow, I could live here, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't understand that. Everybody deserves to have a safe, functional home that works for them. So a care provider walking in and being like, wow, this is beautiful, we could live here. I'm like, yeah, everybody can live in a nice house. Everyone deserves to live in a nice house. It's not, you can make things don't have to look clinical just because because somebody's got additional needs. Things can be...
Yeah, this isn't the Victorian age, is it?
No.
You know, shutting people away in horrible accommodation, you know, that's definitely not. So, so what's next for you in the business? Because one of the things that sometimes happens in property, and it doesn't sound like this has happened for you, but is you're doing something, it's going really well, and then something else more exciting is, you know, there. It might be, hey, let's take on a massive development, or let's do this. Really easy to kind of have that shiny penny syndrome. Is that something you've kind of almost fallen victim to, or you know, how do you stay focused? And is the plan, do you know what? We know what we're doing. We're just going to stick to it because we're great at it.
So I do chase things more than my partner, but my partner's very good at saying, hang on a minute, we're in a position where this works, let's carry on doing this for a little bit longer until and then we can look at bigger things. When we've got a nice sort of foundation of what we're able to do, and we've sort of almost perfected it, because we're learning on each one, things change, and we're still adapting to even the standard things that we put in them. So for argument's sake, we used to have emergency lights that were like in the lights in the middle that would, so it would shine green. And I remember going into a bedroom one day and was like, that's horrible. Like, it's just horrible. Just, can we find an alternative? And the electricians found an emergency light that's tiny. It looks like a spotlight, and it's got the smallest green light, so it glows up nicely, but it doesn't flood the room with green. So even things like that, we're still trying to perfect, you know, the things that we can put in them to make them as homely as possible. I would love to do a big development, but not yet. I want to make flats for people. I want to make adapted flats for people, and wheelchair users especially, because wheelchair users, it's not even buying a house for a wheelchair user or buying a bungalow for a wheelchair user isn't a case of, oh, it works for a wheelchair user, because it doesn't. The door frames aren't wide enough, and there's steps up to the front door, or so I think carry on doing what we're doing at the moment, but absolutely I'd love to do like and a build. I'd love to do a build as well. I want to go big, and my partner's like, not yet, Kayleigh, not yet.
Well, it sounds like, you know, he's keeping you on track and being kind of, you know, like you know, focused on what is definitely working. So I mean, it's great what you're doing. It's lovely to talk to someone who's so passionate about, you know, what you're doing. So if people are watching this, listening to this, or reading this in the magazine, and they're thinking, this could be for me, you know, maybe this is, you know, the thing for me, are there any kind of warnings that you'd give, or mistakes that you've made along the way, where you could say, this is great, but here's some of the things we didn't get right, and so don't make the same mistakes?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that we didn't get right initially was we built a house that was generic and then tried to fit the people to it. That hasn't worked. That didn't work for us. You need to have an idea of the tenant before you start buying a house, before you start especially before you start renovating a house, because you're just going to undo all the work you're going to do. Make sure you've had conversations with brokers to make sure that you can get lending on them. And I would also say, do a standard buy-to-let first. Make sure you know the workings of a house. Make sure you know what you're doing, and because lenders don't tend to like lending if you've got nothing behind you, if you're not classed as a seasoned landlord in any way, they'll just think you're chasing the shiny penny. So
yeah, so no track record is going to be really difficult to go straight into this.
Yes, yeah. I think they're probably they're the things that put yourself out there.
Yeah, it sounds like another one might also be the learning to be hesitant in terms of saying yes to everything and not overspending on a property, and understanding what's crucial and what's nice to have. Yeah. So.
Don't be too like I was almost fearful to say no, because I thought it would go against us if we said no, and actually all that does is it sends you on a very slippery slope for you being, well, we'll go to them because they'll pay for it. And then you're in a position.
They say yes to everything.
And then you're in a position where you're like, okay, well, that's a no from us, and then it just causes friction down the line. So I think making sure that you understand what the adaptations are needed and what the cost implications of them are puts you in the best position going forwards, and saying, well, that we can't foot that bill. That's going to be needed to come from somewhere else. So.
Okay, fab. And I wanted to ask as well, when you're in business, particularly in property, it can be amazing to kind of meet with other people who do what you do and share ideas and whatever. Do you know other people who do what you do, or is this kind of quite, you guys are just on your own out there doing it, and haven't had the benefit of necessarily networking with other people who are in that particular boat? So
yeah, we know a couple of people, but they're from down south, so they're not close to us, and I think it's kind of a lot, like you said before, supported living is a massive buzzword at the minute, so everybody wants to get involved in it, and I think there's different levels of it. Social housing sort of or touchpoint care, domestic violence and things like that is also classed as supported living, but you don't need adaptations for that. What we're doing is niche, and it is because it's for complex care, so it separates us out onto an even more niche side, and even less people are prepared to do it. So we know a couple of people that do it, that we can ring and speak to. A lot of our information and resource comes from care providers and register providers that we have worked really hard to get good relationships with. So
okay, brilliant. And as we come to the end of this, I know there'll be people watching, listening, reading this who may want to connect or follow you online and find out a bit more about what you do. Is there a good place for us to be able to direct people to?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. It's Kay Gavin. We're on Instagram as well, just at WMS Properties. Okay,
fab, brilliant. Well, look, thanks so much for sharing this with us today. We at YPN couldn't do what we do without people like yourselves coming on and being very candid about the reality of property investing and finding a particular niche and the challenges along the way. And we've been doing this 18 years now, which seems incredible. And I hope you don't mind me saying the next bit, speaking to ordinary people who are achieving extraordinary things in property, and in this case delivering extraordinary things for a much needed sector. So thanks for painting us landlords in a different light. So.
No worries, thank you for having me.